Kate, we've only known each other less than a month, and I met you as part of this group project that we're now building, which we'll share more about later on. And I think, yeah, what we've been talking about and what certainly stood out to me was just the deep love that you have for serving humanity. And what I've seen and what I've heard from your own journey and from reading your book as well is how much your experience teaching thousands of students across Australia on country, working with Aboriginal communities, teaching mindfulness and really doing the work, the yucky, messy, yet very cathartic and important internal work to do something that so many people struggle with. And I know I've struggled with for several decades of my life, which is to say no and to say a healthy no and to be okay with that. And I think this is a really important conversation to have because so many people struggle to do that. And so I'm, really grateful that you're here to share some of that wisdom with us and how that's shaped your journey today.
Oh my goodness. Yay! I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. And yes, saying no, it's a relatively new thing for myself as well. Although I guess in writing the book, The Sacred No, and going back through my life and taking myself through the framework and really excavating as a first sort of part of the framework, I've realized that I have pulled out the sacred no a number of times throughout the course of my life. And it's been a big thing to do. There's been a cost. There's been backlash. There's been exile. And so in a lot of ways, I can really understand why it is so difficult for people to say no, because it's deeply ingrained in us. We've been deeply conditioned from a very young age to comply, to keep the peace, to make everybody happy, make sure everybody's happy, everyone. If someone's not happy, that's on you.
God, that's heavy. That's a heavy burden to carry around. Oh my God.
As opposed to, how about you focus? And it's not even about happiness. You know, it's not like, okay, make yourself happy first and then. And there'll be a lot of people that are all about, I'm just trying to get to happiness, you know. It's not even that. It is, you know, and as we go deeper into the conversation, the context of the book, you know, it's how does this feel in my body? Happiness is not the only emotion on the scale. To live a full life and to be able to experience genuine happiness or bliss or love or peace or whatever it is that we're wanting to experience, we have to have something to compare it to.
I really want to dive into the book because, as I said, I've listened to some of it on the way here. But before we even do that and even define what is a sacred no, can you share from your own experience, why was it so difficult for you to say no? Why did you say yes for so long? And what did that actually look like in practice throughout life or work or relationships?
If I look, and I'm looking right back to childhood, and if I look right back to childhood and I think about being in school, being a girl, I wanted to be a good girl. I didn't want to be in trouble. I didn't want to be seen as a bad girl. You know, I wanted to please. I wanted to impress. I wanted to, and maybe on an even deeper level, a survival. You know, I didn't want to upset my parents. And I think that has played a huge part in me not wanting to disappoint. I guess the role that I held inside of the family dynamic. I was one of the younger cousins. I'm the middle child in my family, but I really think that like the position in terms of where you're born into your family plays a part in terms of the role that you take on. And we had a big, beautiful family. We still do. And there was a lot of, I guess, ways of being, things that happened inside of our family, ways of looking at things. One of the things I had was like that the men in our family were put on pedestals and they were all sporting heroes and, you know, amazing. Like, and my pa went to war and his brothers and my granny's brothers. And so there was kind of like this, well, the men are up here, and that felt like a sort of subtle undertone of the messaging. My family's probably going to kill me for saying that, but That was definitely there. And I think just an overall feeling of there's something wrong with me.
Why did you think something was wrong with you?
My mum had a sister who passed away when I was young, and I think I was about 8 or 9. And it was very surprising or shocking circumstances. No one really believed that she was going to pass away. And she left behind 4 children. I think the oldest was 15, maybe. So my 4 cousins, and it was my mum's sister. So my mum was deeply impacted by that. And obviously, being the child of my mother, and, you know, like we're all so connected to our parents, but especially our mothers. I was deeply impacted by that as well. And my mum went through a really challenging time. And I guess on some levels, she didn't have the emotional capacity to. Can you imagine? Like, you've got 3 kids, you're feeling responsible for all these other children as well, like your sister's children, and the grief of your sister passing away. And she was just dealing with a lot. And so my little child brain was like, my mum's not available. She's not available to me. You know, she's there must be something wrong with me. Yeah. I think if I reflect back, that was probably the moment where, or the time in my life where I started to really see my mum withdraw emotionally and, yeah, really going through the stages of grief and shock and disbelief and just going through the motions. And yeah, I think that's where I got the idea that something wrong with me. I was trying to do everything I possibly could to be there for my mum and wanting to support her and wanting to love her and wanting to understand and still wanting to be myself. And yeah. So, I mean, I've done a lot of work sort of looking back. So I already know that that was a pivotal time for not only myself, but our entire family. And that's where we develop these beliefs about ourselves in childhood, in, you know, extreme and challenging and tragic moments that we go through in our life. And the other thing, I'm just trying to remember the exact wording because something else came up for me. It was when I was in high school, and it's the pivotal moments, you know, like the 6 to 7 years old, the 13 years old. But I remember being in high school and I was bullied in high school, in my first year of high school. And I've already come in thinking there's something wrong with me. I'm 6 foot tall, so I'm already standing out like a sore thumb. And I've got these girls that are in the year older than me, and they're approaching me every day, coming up with some story about, we've heard you've been talking about so and so. And it was so uncomfortable to be approached by people that I didn't even know and to be continually, I guess, I don't want to say attacked, but like they came at me every day. One day they slammed my head into the lockers. One day, you know, something else happened, but it was just, I had to be on high alert for these girls, you know? And what I started doing was smoking up at the tree, you know, with all my friends. Like, we've got to fit in. I've got to fit in here. I've got to belong here. I'm being picked on. I've got stress. I don't know why they're coming at me. So I'll just go and smoke. And I think, you know, probably inside my body, I knew that smoking wasn't right. It didn't feel good. It didn't taste good. And now, looking back now, I see that I started doing it because I was adapting to that feeling of dis-ease and anxiousness and anxiety around being approached by people and not really understanding what was going on and not having the skills or the inner fortitude to be like, no, get away from me. I don't even know who you are. What's your problem? You know, I didn't have the ability to do that because I already inherently believed that there was something wrong with me. So that them coming towards me was just like, oh yeah, they're just confirming that there's something really deeply wrong with me.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I definitely relate growing up with my own parents and seeing them trauma and hardship migrating from a foreign country and then feeling like I needed to achieve and to perform so that it gave us a reason to celebrate and come together as a family. And then when I wasn't doing that, I felt like something was wrong with me. And then even later on, throughout university, I felt like the only way to fit in and to counteract that feeling of I'm not good enough or something's wrong with me is by adapting to what other people are doing, drinking, drugging, smoking. So that way maybe I can feel like something is right with me, even though deep down, I know this isn't who I am. So how did that, follow you throughout life from there, kind of coming out of school? And how did that feeling of, perhaps not feeling like you're not good enough or people pleasing to try and keep the peace look like after school?
Well, it's so interesting because there's so many things running through my head based on what you just said about, going through uni and trying to fit in and taking drugs and drinking. And I think that's something that starts quite young for a lot of people in Australia, a lot of young people. But the only reason I think that is because somebody handed me my first alcoholic beverage when I was 12 years old. I was tall. I looked like a fully grown adult, at 12 years old. And I think it continued from there with the alcohol and the smoking and eventually experimenting with drugs and things like that. But in terms of people pleasing, I think I did those things so that I could engage with people the surface level that was the acceptable level. We're going to connect here. We're going to bond. We're going to go out. We're going to party. We're going to all abandon ourselves together. And whatever comes from that, it's all just in the name of a good time. And being 48 now, I see the younger generations doing exactly the same thing. And I've spent many years unpacking all of that and really examining it. And I do see that as one of the major issues that we're facing in this country and probably around the world, but definitely inside of this country is, not just people pleasing, but fully disconnecting from the truth of who we are.
What is the truth of who we are?
Well, we are sacred beings. We're part of nature. We're all connected and we are infinite in nature. So all of the self-discovery and all of the internal work that I've done, I just keep expanding. I keep expanding and expanding and expanding and discovering more. And when I go out and I take drugs or I smoke, it's a contraction. I'm contracting. I'm getting smaller. I'm getting smaller. I'm getting smaller. And I'm trying to stuff it back down, whatever it is. So keep it down. And other people will disagree with me, and that's all right too. Some people say they need alcohol to go out and have courage to say what's really there or to get up on a stage. I know I used to do that. I used to drink alcohol to get up on a stage. But along my journey, I think with, when I said, I've got to look out for myself, I've got to start investigating what's going on here with these patterns and why I'm choosing to always be the person that goes to my friend's house, to always be the person that's the life of the party, to, always be the person who's out drinking and being the last one to leave the nightclub. I used to be so proud that I could drink any guy under the table. Oh, that's really something to be proud of,
Look at me now, Mum.
I mean, yeah. And if I think about, how sacred I am, and then I go back to, being 25 and laying on the street somewhere in Collingwood outside of a nightclub at 4 a.m. with people looking over me saying, "Is she alive?" And I think about, and I think it's really come from being face to face with children on a daily basis over the last 20 years. And just seeing how beautiful and sacred and amazing and just full of life and love and infinite creative expression they are. I knew that I had a responsibility to get myself sorted because the reflection through their eyes was like, wow, these little humans they need to be nurtured. What kind of example am I setting for them if I'm going out, the night before and then rocking up to work the next day? If I'm going out on a Thursday night and rocking up to work the next day, like after a big night on the town, and then I'm standing in front of them and saying, okay, smoking is bad. What is that? That's just hypocrisy. And so I learned early on in my teaching career that it was like, I have a responsibility to these young people. And I guess that's been a huge part of me writing this book, is that I know I had that experience, but not everybody else looks at children and thinks that, but they are our future.
It sounded like the kids that you were teaching were kind of like a mirror for you. Like you saw their purity and childlike innocence and curiosity. And it sounds like it was kind of calling more of like a maternal, nurturing version of you to come forth, one that doesn't abandon herself.
Yes. Well, you put that so succinctly. It took me 45 minutes to say what I wanted to say. But yeah, exactly.
So what I was curious around was, what was the process that you took yourself through to transform this and to act more in alignment? And how did that benefit you coming out of it?
Okay. Great question. I didn't make any changes initially. I just noticed that it was not congruent, and I continued doing what I was doing. But that was a sign from my body, from my soul, from, within, that I ignored and ignored and ignored, and things in my own life started to get worse as a result. And
What happened? Getting worse?
well, I kept drinking, I kept partying, I kept trying to have relationships that weren't going anywhere. I was suppressing myself. I wasn't, in my mind, it was like, I'm 30 something and I still don't have a partner. I don't have kids. I don't have a house. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. This is what I'm here for. Everyone else, all my other cousins are all married. They've all bought houses. They're all having kids. Again, what's wrong with me? And then I remember falling pregnant and not with somebody that I wanted to have a relationship with. And yeah, it was a really challenging time. And I got put onto this Jungian Jungian analyst by some people that were very close to me. And I ended up having an abortion, and it was a big deal because it was sort of like I was 34 and I was like, oh, this could be my last chance to have children. And even though the relationship was not right and this man was definitely not the right person, there was still that, as a woman, as a human. Yeah. So that was something that I chose, and I started working through in therapy with this therapist, and just having that support and that person there reflecting back to me and listening to my journey and really understanding and helping me to understand. I describe it as untangling the Christmas lights inside my mind.
Love that.
Yeah. Because that was the process, and it was long. Like, it was a long process, but there was a lot to unpack. There was 34 years to unpack, and I wanted to understand everything. I wanted to understand why I was making these choices. I wanted to understand why, I started looking at our society as a whole, and why are people drinking so much? Why are people taking drugs? Why are we? And again, I was with the children, and I was like, we've got these precious children here. Why are we not doing better for them? And I realized what was within my control was for me to do better. And so instead of going out and partying and what have you, I found myself in a relationship with a guy who handed me a paintbrush, and I started painting, and I started painting all this amazing stuff that I would never have expected that would emerge. And there were messages and signs and symbols and things that came out onto the canvas that I started to realize were divinely guided, shall we say. I was reading The Artist's Way at the time, and there was a lot of quotes in this book around, artists and musicians and how they would speak about the music or the art wasn't them. It was coming through some divine channel or universal consciousness or some thread that is woven through all of us. And so I painted this mandala once and I looked at it and I just understood that there was a well-being theory embedded. And
For
that
schools, you mean, or just in general for well-being?
well, great question. And I did think, and it has kind of evolved since I painted it. It was over 10 years ago that I painted it, but I have an idea for a wellbeing portal that I would love to see in schools. And I know that it was connected to that. And that's been me moving along my journey, trying to figure out how to impact change in the education system at scale. Because I guess on the micro level, I knew that if I went and did this work for myself, on myself, to heal and to grow and to, express myself creatively, to feel safe enough to do that, to write and to sing and to go to yoga and do meditations. And I was naturally choosing all of these things, going out into nature. I was choosing to do all of these things because I had this support from one professional that knew what she was doing and that was able to create that safe space for me. And just like we had that conversation the other day and we held that safe space for one another, what emerged from there was I went off and started playing the guitar again, and I haven't done that for ages. Right? And I think this is what is so important for our young people and for our world, is that we as the educators, as the teachers, as the parents, as the coaches, is that we have discovered these things for ourselves so that we can then become that safe space for the children, so that they feel seen and that they feel heard, that they can be who they truly are and they can express their unique, amazing gifts without worrying about, oh, I'm not supposed to blow my own trumpet.
Got all these trumpets, but I can't blow them.
Yeah. I mean, and I see progress. I see progress in relation to this, in that there's a lot of young people now going, I'm this and I'm that. And they're really like getting a sense of who they are, which is really positive. And they're getting in touch with their feelings and they can name their feelings. And, there are steps being taken. There is progress being made. And I guess the next evolution is can we really authentically be all that we are while still trying to please everybody else around us, by still taking on everybody else's unhealed stuff, by still, that's been where I've come to with the sacred no, the writing of it, the initiation process. It's like, I've done all this painting, written all these songs, but I'm still overextending. I'm still overgiving. I'm exhausted. And so, we were talking before about sharing and tooting your own horn and blowing your own trumpet. And for years, I've been putting myself out on social media for years, like 15 years, sharing my art, sharing my music. For what?
Why do you do it?
Well, it's a great question. I'm glad we've come to this point, because it speaks to identity and who I believed myself to be. And we all have this identity, or what I thought about years ago was that I never had one. I didn't really know who I was. I thought I had to be all things to all people. And people used to say to me, oh, you're an earth angel. And so I used to think, well, I'm an earth angel. Okay. Or even when, I had that abortion, it was like I outsourced what I was going to do to somebody else. I didn't trust myself. I didn't know that I was actually the authority on me. I never got that. I never realized that. I was always like, I've got to please somebody else.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, yeah, whether you want to call it change of identity or a change of consciousness, when you're doing that kind of inner work, if you're in a relationship with a partner or with a practitioner and you're feeling safe enough to let go of what no longer serves you, and then to feel safe and comfortable enough to start fully expressing yourself through art and through music and, through your work and sharing it publicly. And it can be perceived, as we've spoken about, especially in Australia, where there's this socio-cultural narrative of tall poppy syndrome, where you might be cut down or treated differently. Like, how have you lived with this? And how have you been with this reality as you've stepped into this new version of yourself and you're sharing more of yourself unapologetically, right? And like we look at a lot of people who are doing that and it might seem really easy for them, but I know for me, it's been fucking terrifying. And relationships have come and gone and I've outgrown people and there's been a lot of grief for, those old environments and friendships and relationships and the older version of me as well that I had to let go of and all those habits. And it's like a full death and rebirth and yeah, it's intense. So yeah, I want to hear from you, like, before we dive into the book and what sacred no is, like, how has that process been for you as you live as this person who is fully self-expressed now?
It has been a journey, a massive journey. And it's been a journey from so desperately wanting and needing validation, acceptance, belonging that never fully arrived to training myself. I remember going into this leadership program and learning about the distinction acknowledgement. And I was standing there just literally acknowledging the person in front of me for a minute. Just everything. I wasn't trying to blow up their tires. I wasn't trying to, I mean, I did notice a little bit of people pleasing creeping in, but it was literally acknowledging what you noticed about another human being. And I thought, how is it that I'm 40 years old and I've never ever learned this, to acknowledge somebody for who they are and how they've shown up? I was being acknowledged too, like what I was so hungry for. I was being acknowledged. I put myself in more communication programs because I needed more of that. I needed to expand my we touched on it before about, needing to be more. I've got to be more. I've got to be better. I've got to improve myself. There's something wrong with me. I've got to fix it. I've got to fix it. This fascination with and also I could look at it like that, or I could look at it like, I am a teacher. I am a learner. I am a teacher. I am a learner. If I am not learning, if I'm not expanding, if I'm not growing, then I'm just going to be doing the same stale old thing year after year. And that's going to be boring. So moving through that to then getting to the place where, because I always took whatever I was learning in my personal, professional life and bring it to the kids that I was working with. And I was teaching self-acknowledgement. I was teaching acknowledgement of other people. I was trying to have staff members engage in these types of practices with me. And some people were like, including leadership in some cases, where they were just too uncomfortable to do something like that. And it was like, okay, like just getting where people are at and then fully coming to a place within myself where I'm like, I actually don't need this validation. I don't need this acknowledgement. I can give it to myself, but I don't need it from anybody else.
That is huge. And I think I think it can be a lifelong journey for most people, at least until you get to that point where you acknowledge all of the love and approval and validation, encouragement that I've been seeking, I can give to myself. Like, you've obviously done work for 14, 15 years with your Jungian analyst. And then was there a specific moment in time where you were like, was it with that, the leadership team at the school? Was that sort of the final straw where you were like, actually, no, I'm done. I'm done trying to ask for permission and seek validation? Was that it, or was there another moment where you were like, okay, now I'm going to start saying no. I'm going to start saying the sacred no.
Like I said, there's been so many examples over the years. I don't think we have time. I think we'd have to do like an all-day sit-in to kind of go through them all because there's so many examples. But when I chose to do this program, that was the last program that I chose to do, and potentially will be the last program that I choose to invest in for a while. It was it was the program that I joined to start writing the book. And one of the things, it just was a different sort of program. And I remember there was a group of people, and I would go to, because we had tasks that we had to complete each week. And every time or whenever we'd completed them, we had to like make a video about it in the group and then keep going with the next task. And I remember making videos in the group and literally hearing from no one. And I mean, that had happened for years and years on social media anyway, with regards to, the content that I would share and the art that I would share and my music that I would share. I remember one guy making a comment about me sitting in a tent on Byron Bay Beach playing guitar and him saying, "Oh, there you are, Wheels, always playing the big venues," It's a part of the culture, the jokes that just have a little in them. But then there I was in this group and we were all working towards writing our books. And there were so many challenges and tasks and things that we had to complete. It was a massive process, lots of questionnaires to get to really dig right deep down to find out what it is that our true message is. And no one was validating anything. I might get one comment, or one person liked it. And then I just had to keep going. And there was a part of me going, why isn't anybody engaging with this? Why isn't anybody liking it? But I just had to keep going. I had to keep getting on with it, and at the end of it, I was like, I've got this whole book that I have literally just poured my whole entire heart and soul into. And the journey that I have gone on, everything that's happened in my life as I'm writing it, going through the initiation myself, starting to say no, and mean it. And without apology, I said no to the job that I was working in. I chose myself. I chose to go and do healing and just take care of myself because I had really sort of exhausted and gotten burnt out in this teaching role out bush, and saying no to all kinds of things, including the relationship that I was in that I knew was going to come under the microscope of, is this aligned for me or not? So yeah, it was really through that process, but I can also see where there were so many other instances in my life where the sacred no would come out, but it would then go back. I guess invest a lot of time and energy into certain people and certain projects that, okay, I can look at them and say, yeah, that was valuable learning, but I can also see that I really expended energy and time and money that could still be in my bank account,
What's changed in how you think, feel, act in your reality since you've started saying the sacred?
Wow, that is such a beautiful question. I can just feel my entire being just feels calm. What's happened is my nervous system is no longer in fight or flight or freeze mode all the time. So I wake up in the morning and I feel great. I feel excited. I want to love on my puppy. We wrestle every morning. We walk down the street. We do the same thing every morning. We go for a walk. Calm. My whole body feels, there's no stress, there's no anxiety. We walk along like talking to snails, And granted, I have taken some time off work, so I have created that space for myself and to be able to do so without stress. Like I'm in a healing process as I've been writing the book. But I guess the main thing is saying the no and just putting a full stop there. And it's a no, it might be a no to somebody else's stuff. A lot of the time it's a no to my own stuff, It's a no to the stories that I'm making up in my head about somebody else, or It's a no to the stories that I'm making up about myself, or it's a no to, going to the bottle shop and getting alcohol or a block of chocolate and actually sitting on the couch and releasing the emotion that is coming up within me. And it might be a no to distracting myself by getting busy with doing something else and actually inquiring within myself, well, what is going on here? What is this about? Let's process it in full, real time,
Mm.
not some other time.
It's a practice. It's a living practice. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it's not one no. It's every day you gotta wake up and choose it.
Mm. Really, it doesn't go anywhere, does it?
No. No, it doesn't. And I've really struggled with, I think, that, um, numbing out, and in the past it was drugs and alcohol, and then it turned into food. And I still find it hard at times to notice, man, I could just demolish a burger or a pizza or
Mm.
just something really greasy and fatty right now. And then actually checking myself and be like, why? Because it's not our natural state to seek out this like fucked food that has
Yeah.
all kinds of shit in it. It's not natural to do that. It's
No.
because some emotion's driving it. And whether you're willing to admit it or not, right? That's tough. Our natural state is well-being. So there must be, as you beautifully said before, like some dis-ease in the body that wants to be acknowledged.
Yes. And I always go back to the dummy, but I want to share this because it's just sort of come to me like in the last 2 days. But just this understanding of when we're a baby, and we are connected to our mother. I mean, we're connected. We're literally inside our mother's body as baby, and we have the cells of our grandmothers in there as well. So we're so connected. We're not just connected to our mother, we're connected to our mother's mother and the lineage as well. And then next minute we're outside the body and we're a little baby. And so the way that we stay connected to our mother is through the breastfeeding, if we get breastfed as a child. And then we're sort of weaned off that. And then someone pops a dummy in our mouth, and then it's like, all right, now I'm 3, I want a cupcake, now I'm 5, I want TV, whatever it is. But it's putting something artificial in place of something that is so natural. And that's what you're speaking to, right? It's not natural to go seeking synthetic materials or a greasy burger. That's not natural. What's natural is to go seeking connection, whether that be connection with oneself or with another person. And yeah. And so for me, that's one thing that has always been my strong suit. And it's been, I guess many teachers out there would feel exactly the same way. You have to be connected to the people that you're in the people business, And so I've often wondered how it is that, say parents mainly parents, because I'm not a parent. I'm like, but I work with kids every day. So I'm like, why are parents not doing this same work that I'm doing so that they can show up in a certain way for their children? And I think, whilst we're connected to our lineage, we're also inheriting a lot of the baggage, that the unprocessed, unhealed stuff that's coming down the line as well. And it is a lot, And we've said that, like sitting with ourselves and our own emotions can sometimes be a lot. So, but one of the things that I did discover in these leadership trainings is like how to hold space for people. And part of the sacred no is also realizing that I don't have to carry other people's stuff. I can witness it, but I don't have to take it on as my own. I'm not responsible for everyone else on the planet. And I am.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't have to get pulled into it, right? And that thing that's a really important distinction, one that I've had to learn as well, is like, and even in my work, it's being able to, as you said, hold space and be the container for it without collapsing into the story and without like empathizing to a point where your emotions become entangled with someone else's. right? And so let's say there's someone who's listening right now who's really, really resonating with your story, who is perhaps stuck in a job where they feel like their voice isn't being heard like you, or in a relationship that they know isn't particularly serving them or nourishing them, and they know the right thing for them to do would be to say no, but they're really struggling to do that. What would you say to them?
Give me a call.
We'll include it in the show notes.
Well, I would definitely say sit down and ask yourself some questions around it. You could even get ChatGPT to create the questions for you and then answer them. Like answer them honestly for yourself on a piece of paper with a pen. And that's a great point to start off with.
What are some of the questions that, or like one or two questions that someone could ask themselves to take themselves through that process?
Well, I would say to you, can you think of a question right now? Can you?
For me,
Yeah.
sure.
What's a question that you could ask yourself right now?
Well, I think you said it beautifully before, right? Around like from a body-based perspective, is this situation or circumstance or person making me feel expansive and open, or am I feeling contracted? Does it feel like I get tight and on edge around this personal situation? Does it feel like I'm contracting? And I think that's at least what I do, with as part of my own journey of being more in tune with my internal emotional guidance system and knowing how to tune into an intuition, right? It's all connected. It's like, yeah, and using that as kind of like a litmus test, right? Is this for me or not? That's one question I would ask, yeah.
Is this for me? Yeah. Or is this circumstance or this relationship or this situation expanding me or contracting me?
Bang. Yeah.
Do I feel expanded here or contracted here? And I mean, that's a choose one, but why?
Yeah.
There's a million questions that you could create. My, I guess, go-to is, and I don't just use writing, I use drawing. I was actually going to bring some paper and pens in here today and do a 1-minute drawing activity with you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, let's do that next time.
Yeah. So I'd put a timer on and I'd draw a picture for 1 minute, just a quick little squiggle doodle on the page, look at it and be like, okay, what is that? What is that I'm feeling right now? And if it's, say, it could be I'm feeling happy or I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling worried, or it could be something made up like I'm feeling squiddly bop, right? I'm a primary school teacher, come on. But then I'd inquire into that. Okay, what's underneath that? Or where is that coming from? And then I would spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes even. It doesn't have to be a long time, but it's a willingness to sit with yourself. It's a willingness to inquire within and win, because you have the information. I think a lot of the time, and that's why I said to you, well, what would you do? A lot of the time, especially in our education system, it's like the teacher tells.
Yeah.
And the students go, well, that's what a good student does, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if we're able to get curious about what's actually going on inside of that child, what's actually going on inside of that other person, handing them the permission to have agency over their own questions.
And then, when they reach a solution or follow through because it came from them, as opposed to some order that they've blindly followed, which, unless they're very compliant, they'll probably follow through, but they may not because it's not like intrinsically motivated and driven.
That's right.
So, as we bring it in for a landing, Kate, I want to hear from you. What?
Land the plane.
Land the plane. Fasten your seatbelts.
We're having some turbulence.
Stow your tray tables. Awesome.
Free to love. Being liberated. Great question. I love that question. Me being liberated is being free to be, free to do, free to say, free to act in any given moment, like turbulence, I can I can say anything and I'm okay inside my body. My body feels okay for me to say whatever is naturally there. I can be silly, I can be serious, I can drop into the depth of my feeling. I can keep it surface. I can just be. And if you want to take it to another level, with what we were talking about, asking yourself questions, if I'm liberated, I can go into my garage and paint. I can set up lights and cameras at home and record myself talking about what I'm passionate about. If I'm liberated, I can be honest and transparent and make a difference just by being liberated.
Well, you're speaking my language, Kate. I love that. That's awesome. Would you like to talk about the project that we're a part of?
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you describe it for someone listening?
So how I would describe it for somebody listening is this is how David and I met.
Yeah.
Through some mutual friends, and we all showed up to a meeting that was being facilitated by a wonderful man named Tom, who is connected with a project in Cambodia. And Tom and some other, I guess, people that he's met in Cambodia and around other places have really been looking at how we can create a different model for education, for life. As we all know, there's a lot of stuff that is going on the planet that is scary and confusing, and we're realizing that there are systems that just haven't been working. They haven't been working for any of us. I mean, we've sort of unpacked some of them today, but what this project really is people coming together and saying, hey, not today, Satan.
Not today, say. Oh my God, you're spot on though. Yeah.
Yeah, like we are going to be letting go of all of our fears of blowing our own trumpets. We're going to come together and we're going to activate something really powerful and something really meaningful for the future generations of this planet, because they don't need people sitting around talking about what's going on. They need people actually being willing to take action.
Spot on. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, as Kate said, yeah, it's still in its early stages, but we are working towards addressing this global issue of disconnection from self and from emotions and operating from fear and scarcity as opposed to, love and peace and abundance. And we are on a mission to build a repeatable, scalable model of education and leadership and healing, starting with Cambodia, and expanding from there. So yeah, we won't go deeper now, but if you do want to learn more about it, I'll include some info in the show notes. And
I would also add that, there is a lot of people sitting around potentially thinking to themselves, look, I can see that there's a lot of major issues going on in the world, but I don't really know what to do about it. So there are opportunities for you to contribute financially or in some other way, maybe getting involved in some other way. So it would be great to share that link as well for anyone who wants to make a financial contribution. The project and the scale of it is large, and that's why we won't go too much into it today. But if you're somebody who is wanting to make a contribution to making a massive difference on the planet, I think this is a really wonderful opportunity. And yeah.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, and I often find that's been difficult as well for me around selecting how and when I can contribute or get stuck into a social cause or charity. So, yeah, if you are feeling called, I'll include the information in the show notes. Also, in the show notes are some more stuff about Kate. So, if you resonated with Kate and her work and you want to learn more about her and her book, The Sacred No, where can people connect with you, Kate?
If you're interested in learning more about the Sacred No, you can go to thesacredno.com and find the book there, which is available for purchase in digital format and audiobook format. And there are some other digital products in there as well. Otherwise, you can go to my website, which is katewhelan.com.au, and you can find me there, or on my social medias, which is also linked in through my website.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you. We did it.
We did it. Yeah.
Woo!
For those listening, we did have a few tech dropouts, so we did make it to the end safe and sound. We landed the plane.
Landed the plane.
Yeah, I mean, if this episode or conversation stirred something in you, you know, if you saw yourself in Kate's story, if you struggle with people pleasing and saying no, and you want to learn how to build better boundaries and protect your energy and
Rewire your nervous system and reclaim your self-worth.
damn, yeah, all of the above. Yeah, please share this episode, you know, with someone who you feel might benefit and start a conversation that matters. And thank you for being here in this conversation with us. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.